And now it's time to go on Kilimanjaro safaris.
Damage on the predator. The upper tusks are digging tools used to excavate burrows and find roots. Harambe is rich with bird life. Keep your eyes out for some of these species. Cory bustard. Secretary bird. Ground hornbill. Leaps above 10 meters or 35 feet. And this Thompson's gazelle is honking, making abrupt upward leaps. Perhaps this behavior advertises their athletic ability to evade predators. Harambe's bush country abounds with many varieties of antelope. Sable antelope, clipspringer, scimitar-horned oryx, eland, mole gazelle, kudu. Sometimes our perceptions of animals are clouded by the human qualities we assign them. Let's take a look at some behaviors that seem familiar, yet have very different meanings in the animal world.
More physical barriers here.
Para su seguridad, permanezcan sentados y mantengan las manos, brazos, pies y piernas dentro del vehículo. Y cuiden a sus niños. Gracias. Jumbo, everyone, and welcome to Kilimanjaro Safari. Before you begin your trip, you should know that the unpaved roads please remain seated with your hands, arms, feet and legs inside, and remember to hold your legs. Gracias.
All right. And carefully, everything means welcome to everybody. Step aside all the way across your roads.
Alrighty, friends, watch your hands, feet, arms, and legs for me, please. Alrighty, sir, doors closed.
Thank you, and as we say here in Harambe Twin Day, that means let's go. Jumbo, everybody. My name's Ty, and I'll be your safari driver out on the Harambe Wildlife Preserve. Above your heads up there, you'll see the animal spotting guide. That's just some of the animals we may or may not see while we're out there. May not see them all, but we do typically have some pretty good luck, so go ahead and have those cameras out and ready to go at all times, because I cannot stop for every single animal, and every animal definitely will not be stopping for us. Also, hold on extra tight to all of your loose items, because if anything happens to fall out of the truck, you're not allowed to get out and get it, no matter how valuable that item is. And just for your safety, stay completely seated at all times. Don't stand up to look at the animals, because there's going to be quite a few holes and bumps in the road, and we don't want anybody to get hurt or fall off. And we just have to wait on the final clear from the warden there. Whenever that green lantern starts flashing again on the right, we'll be all set to go. Should be just a couple seconds here. All right, looks like he is now. So head on in and begin our journey here in the Little Aturi Forest. After most of the animals actually use their natural camouflage to blend into their surroundings. So keep a close eye out. The animals in the forest tend to hide pretty well sometimes. That's because they're usually pretty shy animals, and there's a lot of places for them to try to hide in here. So keep a close lookout. There's already some animals on either side of the truck. The two types of antelope here on the left at the very top, laying down the bushes, the reddish-brown antelope with horns. Those are some bongos, nicknamed the ghost of the forest because of how rarely they're ever seen. And both male and female bongo have horns, unlike the greater kudu just behind the tree stump here on the left, the grayish one. They're actually one of the taller antelope here in Africa. They stand just about 5 feet tall at the shoulder, and we can easily tell are female because they do not have any horns. And if you take a look over to the right, there are two okapis on the hillside to the right over there. You may think they're related to the zebra because of their white and black striped legs, but they are not. They're the only living known relative of the giraffe. They actually have skin-covered horns on top of their head called ossicones, just like the giraffe, and a really long tongue they use to grab leaves off of branches. They can also lick their eyes, ears, and even nose if they have to. Also down there on the right, the big black and white bird sitting on the ground, that's a saddle-billed stork. They actually got their name from that little yellow piece at the top of their bill. It forms a saddle, and they will rattle it back and forth to communicate to one another. They also stand just about 5 feet tall, with a 9-foot wingspan, fully grown. And over to the left here, laying down, a black rhino out there on the left in the shade. It's actually less than 5,000 of those black rhinos in the entire world today. That's because they are poached every single day just for those keratin horns. Black rhinos can also weigh around 3,000 pounds fully grown, and they have a pointed upper lip, so they can easily grab leaves off the small bushes and trees in the area. Rhinos also have 3 toes on each foot, and they can charge at speeds up to 35 miles an hour. Alright, keep a look out around here. Let's see what else we can find. Lots of hiding places for the animals around here. Lots of trees, rocks, bushes, logs, hills, and shady areas they can hide in. Looks like we'll be heading out of the forest though, and up to the Safi River. Hopefully in the Safi River we'll find some hippos. But you gotta keep a close eye out because once hippos are underwater, they can be pretty hard to see most of the time. Blending in, looking like big rocks underwater. So when we get around the corner here, keep a close eye out down in the water. Hippos are nocturnal animals, or really ever coming out of water for too long, especially during the day. Your skin would dry up and overheat if they did. So they pretty much spend all day down in the water to keep themselves cool and hydrated. Now, fully grown hippos can weigh well over 5,000 pounds. They're very territorial, and they're not afraid to show it. So you definitely don't want to get too close to them. Seems like 1 or 2 further back in the back right corner. If you don't see them too well back there, don't worry. We'll check up ahead. We usually have better luck in the river anyway. Another thing that can make hippos harder to find is the fact that they don't really swim. They take a deep breath, sink all the way down to the bottom, and then walk along down there. Whenever they're ready for another breath of air, they'll simply just kick themselves right back up to the top, take another deep breath, and then sink right back down. And a group of hippos like that's also called a bloat. A bloat of hippos, and they use a wee-soft sound to communicate to one another. Each one is different for each and every hippo, just like our voices. All those white birds on the island to the left there, those are some pink-backed pelicans. They actually got that name because the feathers on their back turn a light pink color during mating season. They can also have up to an 8-foot wingspan when they are fully grown. And a group of pelicans, it's actually called a pod of pelicans. As you cross over this rickety bridge, down here to the left are some Nile crocodiles. They can get about 20 feet long, weigh around 500 pounds. They can also easily over 200 pounds in just one meal, so they typically eat about once a week. However, they can also hold their breath completely under the water for up to 2 hours at a time. Not the type of animals you want to mess with. And a group of crocodiles on land, that's called a basque. And a group of crocodiles down in the water, that's called a float. And whenever you see the crocs laying there on the shore with their mouths wide open, it's not because they want to eat you. It's just because they're trying to cool off. That's how they do it. They'll just lay on the shore and open their mouths as wide as they can because they really don't sweat like us. Over to the right side here, that strange upside down looking tree, that is a baobab tree. It's not actually upside down, it's just leafless. And it can stay like that up to 9 months of the year. That way it can conserve water in its trunk to survive long periods of drought. Because of that, it's also known as a tree of life, and they can live to be over 1,000 years old. As we make our way down into the savannah here, this will be one of the best views of the savannah from up here. Out on the savannah, the animals will actually work together to shape how the land looks out here. Elephants will knock down any and all trees in their way. Giraffes will eat the undersides of the trees, letting the grass grow underneath them. And then antelope come along, eating up that grass, keeping everything nice and tidy around here. It looks like once we get to the bottom of this hill here, there are quite a few giraffes coming up on the right over here. Giraffes are actually the tallest animals in the world, reaching heights of about 20 feet tall, fully grown. The newborn giraffe are just around 6 to 7 feet tall. And a group of giraffe like this is called a tower of giraffe. You also rarely ever catch a giraffe laying down in the wild. It would take too long for them to get up if a predator was to come by, which is why giraffes actually sleep standing up at night, which also isn't too much of a problem for them, considering the fact that they only sleep for about 30 minutes every night. And it's not even one solid period of time. It's like 5-minute increments, totaling up to around half an hour every night. And if you took a look over to the left here in the bushes, there's some Ankole cattle completely hidden in the trees here on the left. The big white horns they have may look really heavy, but they're not. They're actually hollow with a honeycomb-like structure inside. That way they can pump their blood in there and keep themselves cool. They're also a sign of wealth. The more of them you have, the wealthier that you appear to be. Alright, looks like we'll get closer to those giraffes here in just a moment as soon as we can get around the turn up here. But if you take another look over to the left here, there's some African wild dogs. There's some laying on the hillside, some over here in the cave. They're all over the place on the left here. They're also known as the painted dogs because of the beautiful markings on their fur. They are one of the most successful hunters here in Africa, pretty much chasing their prey down to the point of exhaustion. And that's because the wild dogs work really well as a team together and they all care for one another. Plus, they don't even bark, they make a high-pitched chirping sound. They also have 4 toes on each foot, unlike your regular house dog that has 5. Just up ahead here, looks like this giraffe may cross over the road, but over on the left, further back there, laying down on the ground, some sable antelope. They are the official emblem of this reserve, and the darker their fur color, the more dominant that they are. In fact, they use those curved horns to help defend themselves. And the most dominant sable will actually turn a jet black color over time. Alright, that giraffe will be on the left side over here now. Also on either side of the truck up ahead here, some termite mounds. The animals like to use them as scratching posts because they can be just about as hard as concrete. And eventually, over time, will wear down like the one further up to the right. That's when the smaller animals will actually use them like a perch, so they can actually look out over the savannah. Another giraffe there, as well as a zebra or 2 there on the left. There looks like more zebra up ahead as well. Now these zebras, we can easily tell, are black with white stripes, and that's simply because they have a black nose. They also have a very powerful kick, strong enough to break the jaw of a lion. And each zebra's striped coat is unique to that zebra. No two are the same, just like our fingerprints. They're all different for each and every zebra. Looks like some more zebras coming up on the right side as we get around the corner here, but there's those 2 still on the left here, a younger one as well on the left. Alright, just up ahead here, those zebras, as well as some wildebeest up here on this hillside. That's all these gray animals more towards the top of the hill. Wildebeest young can actually run within 15 minutes after birth. Otherwise, they will get left behind. They're also known as news because of the grunting sound that they make. Wildebeest can also go about 5 whole days without drinking a single drop of water. They also like to migrate in really large groups, which is why you normally don't see them alone. Looks like we are about to head into elephant country now. We can tell by all the knockdown trees up here. Anytime elephants feel the need to have more room, they'll just knock down any and all trees in their way to make the room. Let's see if we can find any up ahead here. Keep a lookout for them. I do see one just ahead of us up here. Now, we can easily tell the elephants around here are African elephants, and that is just by the shape of their ears. That is the shape of Africa. Their greatest threat is humans due to poaching for their ivory tusks and loss of habitat. Around hundreds of elephants are poached every single day. That's about 1 every 15 minutes. That's why it's important now about the conservation efforts to help save these beautiful elephants. Otherwise, they will go extinct as soon as 10 years if nothing changes. If you look over to the left here, you might find some mandrill monkeys as well over here on the left. They're the largest and most colorful monkey in the world. Fully grown males get about 100 pounds, and they have little pouches in their face so they can store food for later. And the more darker and vibrant the colors in the mandrill's face are, the more dominant that they are. There we go, a little closer up to that elephant here on the right. We'll have to head on down to the red clay pits, see if we can find the rest of his family down there. They like to hang out around red clay pits because they actually eat red clay for the minerals. They also helps them digest their food, so we'll check down there just a little further up the road and around the corner here. It's not too far away. It looks like we are down in the red clay pits now. It looks like there have been some elephants here recently. There's some tusk marks in the clay to the right, and footprints all over the ground, so keep an eye out. There should be some nearby. Seems like they're a little further up there on the left. Let's try to get up there and get a better view. Our researchers out here on the reserve have actually found out that elephants actually don't like to be around weeds. So the farmers over in Kenya built beehive fences put around their fields to help keep out the elephants. That also gave those farmers a new source of income from the honey. The female elephants are also pregnant for just under 2 full years, 22 months to be exact. And when babies are born, they're just about 300 pounds. Elephants also have quite a few ways they can actually cool themselves down on a hot day. They can spray water on themselves, throw dirt or mud on their backs, or even fan themselves with their big ears. And that's because there's a bunch of blood veins on the back side of the elephant's ears. So when they fan themselves, it actually creates little air pockets behind there to help them cool off. The elephant's trunk is also very powerful. It's a combination of their nose and upper lip. It has over 100,000 different muscles in there and can typically hold about 5 gallons of water inside of it at a time. Now over to the left here looks like some greater flamingo. They can get about 5 feet tall, weigh around 9 pounds. They're the largest flamingo, however they do have the least amount of pink on them. The lesser flamingos actually have more of that pink coloring on their body. The greater flamingo though, they actually got their pink coloring from their diet, mostly the brine shrimp that they eat. And a group of flamingo, that's actually called a flamboyance. And just one flamboyance can have up to 200,000 flamingos in it. There's even some cute little baby flamingo chicks out there as well, those fluffy gray ones with black legs, mostly on the island there. Just around the corner up here, looks like some white rhinos coming up here on the left. Now, these white rhinos are actually much bigger than black rhinos. They can get about 5,000 pounds fully grown. And they have large, wide mouths, so they can easily grasp right off the ground. However, they cannot see too well, though. They can only see clearly about 10 feet in front of their face. Everything else to them is pretty much just a blur, which is why they rely on their great sense of hearing and smell to help them get around. And a group of rhinos like this is called a crash of rhinos. Now you can't see that mud hole out there they like to make, so they can roll around and cool off in the mud. That mud also acts as a natural sunblock and bug repellent, so the rhinos actually keep themselves coated pretty well in that mud throughout the day, as you can see. It looks like we'll get a little bit closer up to them once we get over there in a moment. Let's see if we can get a little better view over here. These white rhinos also did not get their name because of their skin. It's actually a grayish color once you see them without all that mud on them. However, they got the name because when they were first discovered, they were called the Vite rhino. That is V-I-T, and Vite actually translates to wide. And as you can see, these white rhinos are very wide, so it's basically just a misunderstanding of how they got the name white rhino.
I like that one.
Now over to the left, laying on the hillside there, looks like a cheetah laying down in the tall grasses up there on the left. Now cheetahs, they can actually run about 60 miles an hour in just 3 seconds. They also use their long tail to help them steer while they're running. And they are the largest cats that can purr. However, they do have non-retractable claws though, so it's not the type of cat you want to make purr. And they also think that cheetahs are a very successful hunter because of how fast they can run, but they're not. They can only do it for short periods of time, and then they have to rest. And a group of cheetahs, that's actually called a coalition. Coalition of cheetahs. The cheetahs are also the smallest of all the larger cats here in Africa, typical length about 100 pounds. They don't really hunt anything bigger than themselves because they're usually pretty much afraid of anything and everything bigger than them. Up ahead here, a Kopi rock formation. It's where lions like to hang out and spend most of their time, as they are inactive throughout the day. About 16 to 20 hours of their day is just spent lying about here on the rocks. That's because they do all their hunting and stuff at night because they have 6 times greater vision than us at night. So if we have any luck of finding some, they'll be up here on the rocks, which looks like they are here on the left. Now, a fully grown male lion like that can easily weigh about 500 to 600 pounds. That male here on his head alone weighing about 40, and the female lions, they usually weigh anywhere from 300 to 400 pounds. Female lions are also typically the hunters for the pride, while the males actually stay back and protect the pride. The lion's roar can also be heard from around 5 to 6 miles away at its highest. Their tongue also feels a lot like wet sandpaper, and that's so they can easily lick meat right off the bones. Now over to the far left out there, looks like a warthog laying down back there in the shade. Warthogs are actually the largest burrowing animals, and they will back in those burrows with their tusks facing out. And that way they can easily chase away any predators that may come by. However, they can also reuse older abandoned burrows from other animals if they'd like to as well. And sometimes while they eat, they'll lay down, kneel down, or even sit down depending on how low their food is, because they do have short necks, so it tends to make it just a little easier on them sometimes. Over to the far right there, the 2 brown antelope laying down. There's one kind of in the sunny spot there and then one back in the shade. These are some bontebok. They're related to the wildebeest and they're very shy animals. Unfortunately, though, they are almost extinct in the wild. It's because they're hunted for that beautiful coat that they have. Also, some ostrich eggs down there on the ground on the right. Those can weigh around 3 pounds each. You can even go stand on them and they won't even break. And just one ostrich egg is equivalent to about 2 dozen chicken eggs. Now, just up ahead here on the left at the top of this hill, a scimitar horned oryx. Now, the cool thing about them is they can actually lighten their fur color in this summer to reflect heat, darken it in the winter time so they can absorb some heat. They can also raise their body temperature to almost 115 degrees without even breaking a sweat. And that's how they can go about 9 months without drinking a single drop of water. Most of the animals that you've seen on the reserve today are either endangered or pretty close to extinction in the wild, which is why they're only found on reserves like this. So if you want to help some animals out, save them for future generations, you can donate to the Disney Wildlife Conservation Fund at any merchandise location here in the park. Now, we'll be dropping you guys off at the nearest ordnance post. From there is just a short walk back to Harambe Village or wherever else you're traveling today. If you want to check some more animals out, though, head on over to one of the walking trails here in the park. There's Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. Right here in Africa, you're going to see more African animals. There's also the Maharaja Jungle Trek over in Asia. If you care to see animals a little more native to Asia, like tigers, bats, Komodo dragons, Asian birds, and many more. And if you're coming back for another safari, you're more than welcome to. No two safaris will ever be exactly the same. The animals definitely make sure of that. Also keep in mind that the last safari will depart around 6 o'clock this evening, so as long as you're back in line before 6 o'clock, you'll be all set to head out on another safari. I will be dropping you guys off up in here in just a moment, so if you have any questions or any kind about the animals you saw there today, or questions pretty much about the park in general, feel free to come up to the front of the truck once you get off. I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you. Looks like they are just about ready for us here, so here in Africa we don't like to say goodbye. It's too sad and far too final. Instead, I'll leave you guys with an old Swahili phrase, and that is Kwaherini, means to go well in Swahili. So, Kwaherini, my friends, I hope you had a wonderful safari and have a great rest of your day here. We hope to see you guys back soon sometime for another safari.
Welcome back, everyone. Wash your hands on